The information shared on the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While we explore topics in natural health, practitioner fulfillment and mindset, business growth, and practice strategies, nothing discussed on this podcast should be interpreted as medical advice or a substitute for a professional diagnosis, treatment of any kind, or individualized guidance. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your health, diet, or lifestyle, and consult with a qualified business professional before making any changes to your clinical practice or business. The views and opinions expressed by the host and any guests are their own and do not reflect the views of any affiliated organizations. The Fulfilled Practitioner podcast is not responsible for any actions taken based on the content presented. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are fully responsible for your own decisions, actions, and outcomes. Hello, and welcome to the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Brar. This is a place where natural health practitioners learn how to grow, simplify, and fall back in love with their practice again. Here we talk fulfillment, practice growth, leverage in technology, AI, and the mindset needed to build an impactful and meaningful practice. If you're ready to evolve as a practitioner and create a life that feels aligned and energizing, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fulfilled Practitioner podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Brar, and today we're diving into one of my absolute favorite concepts from my book, something that completely changed how I see myself as a practitioner, and I think it's going to do the same thing for you. Now, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the concept of a hybrid athlete. Now, before you think I'm going to tell you to hit the gym and start training and waking up at 5 a.m. and just getting those kettlebells out. This has nothing to do with that. This has nothing to do with burpees or lunges or anything like that. Although if you want to exercise, you can go right ahead and hopefully you're doing it while you're listening to this podcast. But here's the thing. When I say you're a hybrid athlete, I'm talking about something way bigger than fitness. I'm talking about the fact that as a healthcare practitioner, you're always juggling so much more than just seeing your clients and patients. So you're not just a chiropractor, you're not just a naturopath, you're not just a functional medicine doc, you're not just a health coach. You're actually a business owner, you're a marketer, you're a systems builder, you're a visionary. And on top of all of that, you're trying to stay healthy yourself. So does that sound familiar? Let's break this down because understanding this concept, it's going to change the way that you see your practice and it's going to allow you to finally start to feel fulfilled in practice. But you have to adopt this framework. You have to see yourself from this lens. So let's start right at the beginning. What the heck is a hybrid athlete? So in the fitness world, a hybrid athlete is someone who can do it all. They're freakishly strong and they have the cardio of a gazelle. They can deadlift 500 pounds and then they can go run a half marathon. So these are the people you remember from high school who were captain of the football team, the track team, and the baseball team. I know you know the type. They're in movies as well as usually the protagonist or somebody who's fighting the protagonist. They're kind of the most athletic kid at school. And in a way, if you weren't one of those people, you almost hated or envied those people because they made these physical feats look so effortless. And as hybrid athletes, they didn't really confine themselves to the niches of one sport. They were adaptable, they were versatile, they trained across multiple domains simultaneously. So they had strength, they had speed, they had endurance, and all at the same time. Think about how most athletes train, they're usually very singular. So if somebody is a bodybuilder, they're usually really good at lifting heavy things, but they're not the fastest people often. They don't have a lot of cardio often as well. So this is the big takeaway here for everyone. We as practitioners are hybrid athletes. It's exactly what we do as practitioners. We juggle multiple skills that we need to learn. We are strong, we are versatile, we are fast, we are efficient, we are explosive. We do the exact same thing. So on the surface, we look like everyday health practitioners, and that can vary, but under the surface, we're truly hybrid athletes. We're juggling these multiple skill sets at once, and honestly, most of us never train this way. So a hybrid athlete actually trains in all of those categories to get even better at all of those categories. Unfortunately for us, we signed up to be these hybrid athletes, but we never really focused on the training. So that's what we're going to dive into today, and we're going to talk about a few different concepts, and we're going to talk about how to fully adopt this framework and see yourself in a new light. Because As I always say, you have one of the most important jobs on the planet, and that's to serve humanity and help people and end suffering, help people on their journey, get over health issues that have plagued them in so many ways. And you need to show up as your best self, and you need to think of yourself as somebody who can help these people. So when you think about a professional athlete, whether an NHL player, an NBA player, an NFL player, they know internally that they are at the pinnacle. And that's where we are as healthcare practitioners. The things that you know, especially in this industry, you're constantly attending events, you're constantly refining your skills, you're constantly taking continuing education. You have so much versatility in your experience. People come in with metabolic issues, digestive issues, energy issues, hormone issues, and the list goes on and on and on. And you're someone who can look at these root cause mechanisms and make a difference. So let me paint this picture for you guys a bit more clearly. For this example, we're going to really simplify things. We're juggling more than 4 pillars, but let's just zero in on 4 global pillars here. So the first thing that you're juggling is your knowledge. You're always learning. There's new research coming out. There's new certifications, new protocols. The health world is evolving constantly, and you have to keep up. So whether it's gut health or hormones or detox pathways or latest supplement trends, you're expected to kind of be an expert. People look at you as the expert and someone they rely on for this information. And let's be honest, the learning just never stops. It's a beautiful part of this industry, but it can also be very overwhelming. And this is where a lot of us, especially those of us who practice and we're in a way clinicians, we kind of zero in and spend a lot of time in this knowledge pillar. The second pillar is going to be business. So, oh man, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. You didn't go to school to learn how to run a business. You went to school to help people. But now you're figuring out funnels, pricing strategies, marketing, client retention, hiring, systems, social media. The list goes on and on and on. So you're almost playing a completely different game. You went to school on a baseball scholarship, and now we're throwing you on the ice when you never really learned to skate before. It's going to be a little messy. The third pillar is going to be personal development. So you have to work on yourself, your mindset, your communication skills, your leadership abilities. If you're not growing, your practice isn't growing either. And this stuff, it's not always comfortable. And this is where a lot of people can get lost in the weeds, but you need to look at your own self-limiting beliefs. You need to look at your imposter syndrome, your fears, and you need to be constantly working on those things and really seeing yourself in a new light. And that's what I'm trying to do today by showing you this hybrid athlete framework. And the fourth pillar, again, not an all-inclusive 4 pillars, but if we just globally adopt these 4, the fourth one is going to be a bit ironic. It's health. So the irony is not lost on me. We spend all day helping other people get healthy, but we're often skipping meals, not sleeping enough. Our stress levels can be through the roof. And you've probably heard the saying, it's one of my favorite sayings, we can't pour from an empty cup. It's kind of what happens with a lot of practitioners. So this is how you think of yourself as a hybrid athlete. So I know this might seem like a problem and you're like, you know what, I am trying to juggle all of these things. But the problem is you can't juggle these things without a game plan. You don't want to wing this. And that's what most people are doing. You're being forced to learn these things. So a hybrid athlete isn't forced to learn how to run a longer distance or have better endurance. Yes, they have some genetic gifts, just like we have certain gifts. Some of you might be amazingly empathetic. Some of you might be great problem solvers. Some of you might be very good listeners. These are skills that you, if you look back in your childhood, you can definitely see examples of. But the problem is if you don't build on top of those gifts, you're never really going to get anywhere. So we need to see yourself as a hybrid athlete who's working on these things as well, getting better and getting very comfortable doing these things, because these are things you have to focus on and you need to start training like this hybrid athlete. So there's another concept that is very similar to this hybrid athlete concept that I love to revisit. It's from one of the earliest reads I ever read. It was a book recommendation to me by one of my main mentors in life, and it was The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. This book, if you haven't read it, put it on your list. It's a game changer, and it's a quick read. It's not something that's going to take you weeks to read. You could get through it in a few hours, but it really shows how, as a business owner, and this includes you, we need to embody 3 distinct roles. And this is where most practitioners get stuck because they're usually only operating in one of these roles. So the 3 roles, the first one is the technician. So this is the person that's usually doing a treatment or a protocol, you're delivering the service. This is when you're physically adjusting people, you're massaging people, you're doing the visits. You're the experts, you're hands-on with your client, you're solving problems. And honestly, this is where most of us feel really comfortable. So it's in our comfort zone, and that's what we were trained to do. But here's the trap. If you're only the technician, you're basically just an employee in your practice and you're trading time for dollars, and there's a ceiling on how much you can grow. Now, for many of you, if you're completely happy with this, that is totally okay. I'm not here to tell you it's wrong or my way is better, but oftentimes I've met a lot of practitioners, fortunately, and I've had lots of deep connections and talks with these individuals. And the one running theme is that we all kind of feel we're expected to do more. There's more meant for us in this life. So if you're the technician, if you're kind of just stuck here, this is where most people are stuck. They don't break out of it. But remember, you have to embody all three roles. So the second role is the manager. So the manager comes in and they create systems, processes, and efficiency. This is where the person is making sure things run smoothly even when you're not there. A lot of practitioners skip this role entirely because they're too busy being the technician. But without the manager, your business can be in chaos. Your practice can be in chaos. And then third, this is kind of a cliche word today, but it's something you must embody, and that's the entrepreneur. And this is the visionary, the person thinking about the future, about scaling, about long-term impact, how to help even more people. And that's the question that an entrepreneur is often asking themselves. How can I reach more people? How can I build something more sustainable? How can I look beyond what I'm doing right now and see my next 5 years and 10 years? So unfortunately, most practitioners, they're 90% technician, maybe 10% manager, and often 0% entrepreneur because they don't see themselves doing much more or having a bigger impact. And that's why they feel stuck. That's where the fulfillment goes to die. That's where you're showing up every day, you're putting in the hours, you're showing up for the people that you care about, but internally there's this lack of satisfaction. There's this lack of happiness. You know that you could be working on more. So as hybrid athletes, we have to train ourselves to step into all of these roles. You can't just be great at seeing client. You have to build systems. You have to think strategically about your future. And here's the other kicker. I know some of you might be getting overwhelmed hearing this from me, but I'm not saying you have to be perfect in all of this. That's not the point. The point is that you must recognize fulfillment comes from developing something called range. So a lot of us, we're very specialized. We think about singular things like I'm a naturopath, I'm a functional medicine practitioner, I'm a chiropractor. So very, very singular focus. But the fulfillment side, it comes from seeing yourself as more of a generalist in your business. And that's where you need to be able to view things from multiple lenses and embody these three roles. And that's where the hybrid athlete concept, if we stack that right on top of it, you are now excelling in multiple categories. So let's get a little practical here as well. So once you embrace this hybrid athlete identity, you start making different decisions. You stop thinking, I got to see more clients to make more money. And you start thinking, how can I leverage my current time and expertise? You stop thinking, I have to do everything myself. And you start thinking, what systems can I build? Who can I bring onto my team? Where can I find these opportunities to do more with less? And you stop thinking, I'm just a practitioner. And you start thinking, I'm building something that's bigger than me. And once you make this shift, that's when the magic can start to happen. So let me give you an example of my own life. Early in my career, I was trained in your regular one-on-one visit. And all week, I would see back-to-back appointments throughout the day. And all of our visits were around an hour. Sometimes you'd be running over as well. So it was a lot of hours put in. So more clients, more hours, more hustle. And I wanted to help as many people as possible because I come from a background of health issues and I know how much those health issues cost me. And I wanted to be the light for people and I really wanted to help them break out. So in doing this, I wanted to increase my impact, but the only way to increase my impact was to increase my hours. And eventually you start thinking, like, is this what I signed up for? I still remember it was early on during the pandemic. When the pandemic started in 2020, my son was 4 months old. So he was just born prior to that. And kind of those first 4 months of life, I was barely seeing him. I would leave the house early in the morning and then I would come back in the evening and maybe I catch him between naps or between a sleep session or during a feeding session. But I was kind of having this reality check at the moment. Like, is this all there is? Like I'm going to spend the rest of my life just seeing him in bits and pieces and maybe spend some time with him on the weekends. And Is this what true fulfillment is? And the answer clearly came no. So I started thinking like a hybrid athlete. I started training like a hybrid athlete. And I started asking myself, where else do I have expertise? Where else can I make a bigger impact with people? And what unique strategies can I take? So I started building out group programs during this time. I started building out groups to help people with gut and detox issues. And I started building out a program to help people with metabolic health and weight loss as well. So I created systems so that my practice could run without me being there for hourly appointments. And I stepped into that entrepreneur role and asked, how can I reach more people while staying fulfilled, while avoiding burnout, and while showing up every day, present with energy, and just feeling great about what I do? And that's when everything changed. I went from almost feeling a little trapped in practice where I didn't see a way out. I just kind of saw the same thing. And fast forward, I could visualize myself 20 years later, 30 years later, just doing the same thing. But now I saw something different, and I was able to step into that role as a visionary. And I went from almost feeling trapped to actually loving what I do again. So this is such an important distinction, and it was a pivotal moment in my life. So here's what I want you to take away from this episode. You're not just a practitioner, you are a hybrid athlete. You're balancing knowledge, business, personal development, health, and so much more all at the same time. And the more you embrace that, the more you train across all these domains, the more fulfilled you're going to feel. So you don't have to be perfect at everything. I want to repeat that a dozen times more. You don't have to be perfect at everything. You're not trying to be an Olympic practitioner and then an Olympic marketer and then an Olympic level social media strategist. You need to know about these things. You need to have a foundational understanding about these things, and you need to develop in these areas without overwhelm and seeing these things as stepping stones to get you to this future where you feel fulfilled. But you don't have to be perfect at everything. You don't have to become the Michael Jordan of all of these categories, but start by recognizing where you're spending most of your time. Are you stuck in technician mode? When was the last time you actually worked on your business instead of just in practice, into the day-to-day? And that's the shift. That's the game. You guys know me. If you've been listening to the episodes here, you know I like to give a lot of sports analogies, but you really need to see this as a game where you are working on multiple things. So I've grown up playing hockey, and in hockey, it's a multifaceted sport. When you're a kid, and my son plays, and he's 6 at the time of this recording, you have to learn to skate, which is a whole sport in itself. You have to learn how to stick handle the puck. That's a whole sport. You need to learn how to shoot. You need to learn how to pass. You need to learn the mechanics of the game. So it's such a multifaceted process. So that's a hybrid athlete level sport. And that's how you want to see your practice, is you do need to work on all of these areas. So that's it for today. If this resonated with you, do me a favor, share this podcast with another practitioner who needs to hear this. I'm trying to keep these episodes short and sweet and straight to the point and high impact. And if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, The Fulfilled Practitioner, yet, I am giving away free digital copies of that. You can pick it up. I'll put the link below. If you're listening and you need the link, it's www.rbrar.com/TFP book, The Fulfilled Practitioner, TFP book. And that's where you can get a free copy of my book. I hope that helps you on your journey, and I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway from this episode. Until next time, keep training like the hybrid athlete you are. See yourself in this new light, because you have one of the most important roles on the planet, and I'll catch you in the next episode.